Never thought I'd say this, but the M1 Ultra Max Studio is too much computer for me. Hi, this is David Tech for Baba, a channel I share my experiences on how technology enhances my time with kids and family as a dad. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please consider subscribing to the channel. In today's video, I'll share my M1 journey and go over the main differences between the latest M1 Ultra and M1 Max Studio, which there are really just two. At the end, I'll share why after a month of using the M1 Ultra Max Studio, it's just too much computer for me. There are many great videos and websites already out there with benchmarks, so I won't go over those. Just day-to-day user experiences from a dad who used the computer to browse the web, manage home finances, some music, a lot of pictures and 4K videos of the family and this YouTube channel. When Apple announced this new line of desktop computers, the Mac Studio, over a month ago, I was excited to see how much more performance they could squeeze out of the M1 chip. About a year and a half ago, I switched over to the M1 MacBook Air from the 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro and never looked back. I still think the M1 MacBook Air is the laptop for most people even today, especially a refurbished one if you're looking for a great deal. I'm still amazed at how this much computing power can run in such a thin body without a fan. I'll link to a couple of videos I've posted on the M1 MacBook Air in the description below, so you can check them out if you like after this video. When Apple introduced the M1 Pro and Max MacBook Pros last year, I upgraded to the 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro and love its incredible speed, 16-inch mini LED display, and how silent it runs since the fans never really kicked up too much for me. Fast forward to last month when Apple introduced the Mac Studio. I wanted to see if I could get much more performance from the Mac Studio, a desktop with a much better thermal envelope for the M1 Max and M1 Ultra chips to really perform without limits. I tried the M1 Max version and the performance was basically on par with my 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro. I'll link to that video in the description below as well. I think the $2,000 base Mac Studio is a good, more affordable alternative to the MacBook Pro for someone who doesn't need the portability of a laptop. So how about the Mac Studio with the fastest M1 Ultra chip? It literally is two M1 Max chips connected together. It has twice the CPU cores, twice the GPU cores, twice the neural engines, and twice the media engines, even twice the memory. But is it twice the performance? And is it worth twice the price or more? Sadly, but expectedly, not quite. Due to the difference between the M1 Ultra and M1 Max chips, the only other difference between the two Mac Studios is the two front USB-C ports are now Thunderbolt 4 ports as well on the M1 Ultra Mac Studio. Oh, there's one other difference. The M1 Ultra Max Studio weighs 2 pounds more than the M1 Max Studio due to the much heavier copper heatsinks used for better heat dissipation. Don't get me wrong, the M1 Ultra Max Studio is indeed faster than the M1 Max Studio and MacBook Pros, even for some of my workloads. I see up to 40% improvements in importing and exporting raw photos in Lightroom Classic, which I do often. I also see quite a bit of speed improvement when I stitch large raw panoramic photos together. However, I don't see any difference at all in day-to-day browsing and editing photos, which is what I spend most of my time doing in Lightroom Classic. I also don't see much improvement in the 4K video editing I do, even when I have multiple 4K streams from different Sony, GoPro, DJI cameras with LUTs and color grading. Scrubbing through the timeline and exporting videos take about the same time on the M1 Ultra Max Studio and M1 Max Studio and MacBook Pros. Perhaps future revisions of the Final Cut Pro and other software will be able to better harness all the processing power of the M1 Ultra chip. But for now, after a month of using it, I have to admit that the M1 Ultra Max Studio is just too much computer for me. It is faster on occasion for me. And certain heavy 3D workloads, for example, may be able to take better advantage of it now. But it's diminishing returns for users like me. The performance curve just flattens out too much for my use cases to justify the extra cost. For most of the stuff I use the computer for, my 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro or the base M1 Max Mac Studio are more than fast enough these days. For my comparison between the two, check out the video link here and below in the description. I think my M1 journey ends with the M1 Max. How about you? I'm looking forward to what M2 will bring next. Thanks for watching. If you find any part of this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Which M1 Max are you currently using? Is it more than you need or are you looking for more? Let me know in the comments section below. If you want to see more videos on how technology can enhance our life with kids and family, please subscribe and turn on the bell to be notified when I put out my next video. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember to cherish each moment.